So just wrapped up the official room tour to be seen later, and kind of a wrap up of yesterday. But be heading out here from the Wynn in about 15-20 minutes. Get to the airport, catch my flight back to a very cold and forbidding Kansas City, and get back to my real life. So I think I mentioned in the wrap-up piece that I don't know how much I'm going to really film today, but whatever I do, like I said, we'll throw it together with some final thoughts that I'll have for you midweek. But yeah, another good trip, and as always, hate to go, but it's also time. It's also time. I've been sleeping in hotels now for 8 nights, so it's time to get back to my own comfy bed. So if anything happens today worth seeing, I'll be sure to tune you in on it. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's right here in the studio, January 21st, 2020, and just had to throw in a couple of minutes of airplanes flying and landing for the half a dozen people, including myself, who actually enjoy that. I have to say I probably edited out like 15 minutes worth of footage, so so you didn't have to enjoy that. Perhaps we'll provide an extended flight takeoff and landing video for those who donate over $100 to the channel. So no one. Anyway, just here tonight to kind of wrap things up. Reflecting back on the trip, Vegas 44, the vlogs, and you know, my experiences on this trip. It was an interesting few days. Some real positive notes, a lot of really positive notes. A few things that were kind of frustrating. A few new experiences, and just kind of run over or run through. I'm having the last of my in-house Budweisers tonight, so here we go. But, you know, having been back for a couple of days now, it's taken me a while to recover from this trip, and I think it's just being tired. I did not sleep well on this trip. I'm not going to blame the beds at the Wynn or the Binions or the Cal, but I barely slept past 7 a.m. And there were definitely some late nights, so got back, and first thing I wanted to do was sleep, which is unusual. I will say I really want to appreciate all the people that have been watching the vlogs. Listen, I'm not Nikki Firmage. I'm not We Work to Visit Vegas. I'm not Matt Bridger. I'm not Hagen 2 Cent. This stuff is just something I throw together on the fly. There's way too much of me jabbering at the camera, but really pleased that so many of you have chosen to follow along in any case. The vlog views on this series of vlogs is up quite a bit from the ones we did back in September, the Vegas 43 vlogs. So, and just overall, the channel views are way up. The view time is way up. I think we've doubled our average, our 28-day viewing numbers over the past 30 days or so, and added quite a number of new members. Also had some really nice words from a number of people and some nice tweets in support of the channel. So to all of those folks, thank you for following along. Gambling wise, it was a pretty successful trip. I had generally decided on this trip that I was going to try to keep my bankroll between about $250 and $300 a day, which meant sort of at a limit. I didn't want to lose more than $1,500. I actually only ended up losing about $600. And certainly the big reason for that was the great day we had last Thursday, where we basically ended up ahead about $600 for the day. Otherwise, we pretty much lost a little bit every day, and the last couple of days I was a little bit looser and freer with my monies because I had started out ahead. I was a little frustrated on this trip. I had a lot of times where I would sit down and play and literally the money would just disappear almost instantly. And when you're working with a smaller bankroll, sort of mentally kind of frustrates you a little bit, and you start thinking, well, I don't want to lose too much. So I would walk away in those situations and not play as long as I wanted. And then I had a number of times, I think I actually probably showed you most of those, where I would sit down and play a machine and hit something within the first 3 to 5 minutes, and now I've won $50 or $100 or more dollars, and I feel like I need to take that win to sort of recoup my bankroll. I did have a couple of situations where I played for an extended period of time, but not as much as I really enjoy. I actually like just being able to sort of settle in and play for a couple hours, kind of get into a zen experience with the machine. The Caveman Keno was not good to me on this trip. Had one really good hit, and unfortunately it was when I was only betting a quarter. But definitely an improvement in the video poker world. Got those 4-of-a-kinds, which you saw, which were a huge win, and did pretty well on the slots. I had a lot of sort of nice hits, and I wasn't, in most cases, betting all that much money, so it was good fun. It's definitely when it comes to slots, it's the year of the low roller. Maybe the longest session I had was at Treasure Island that Thursday, when I sat there and played Texas Tea for like an hour and a half at 9 cents a spin. So it was kind of fun, and the drinks were flowing. So overall, I'd say drink service was pretty good on this trip, maybe too good. There were a few nights that ended in Anasta style. I had to give a shout out there, but overall was fairly pleased with that piece of it. As usual, I didn't eat all that many interesting places. I know a number of people seem very concerned that I was overcharged at a couple of different coffee shops. I went in knowing exactly what it was going to cost, and decided that's where I wanted to eat. I wasn't going to like Uber it over to Ellis Island at 1 in the morning just to get food, because that would have been counterproductive. Actually, I thought the meal at the coffee shop at Treasure Island was pretty good. Yeah, it was a little overpriced, but I would eat there again in a similar circumstance. I might try something different, but I thought it was fine. And I wanted to check out the Terrace Point Cafe mostly because I'd heard good things about it. And I would even return there. I would probably only do it if I was going there with someone, and if we could kind of sit outside and enjoy the overall experience. And I would probably do breakfast instead of the sort of lunch. The burger was pretty mediocre. Yeah, it was all overpriced. A lot of things on Vegas are overpriced, and particularly if you're on the Strip, you choose to deal with that. If you're not going to deal with that, then you're going to have to go stay at the Gold Coast. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a different experience. So that was my thoughts on that. Yeah, but like I said, my biggest problem in Vegas, I'll eat a big meal either really early in the morning or late at night, and I just kind of forget to eat. I know Matt Bridger's talked about that in the past, and it's often because the libations are flowing so freely that you don't ever really get hungry. Um, Blue Man Group, as I think I mentioned at the time, I thought it was a bit longer than it needed to be. I was glad I saw it. People ask about shows a lot, and I'm not as conversant with all of the shows in Vegas as I should be, because that's not really something I've done over the years. If you ask me about pools, I know what I've seen and I know what other people have reported. Don't have a lot of personal experience, and shows have been kind of that way too. So I figure anytime I have the opportunity to check out one of the more prominent shows in Vegas, I'm going to do it just so I have some input to share with you. There were a lot of kids in the audience that night. It was okay. They kind of squealed and hollered, and I mean it's a show that's pretty much suitable for the family. So if that's something that is important to you, then Blue Man Group is not a bad choice. I just wasn't necessarily taken with their sense of humor, and I said it just went a little long for me. I did enjoy the last couple of days. I kind of latched on to the Ben Heath concept of having a cocktail of the day, although he's certainly more sophisticated, has a lot more cocktails. I really liked that idea. I think I'm going to continue that in future trips, even if I'm generally drinking beer. Want to take a time at some point during the day and try something interesting from the bar. So I thought that was kind of fun, and I enjoyed the cocktails I had, so I think that's definitely something that I'm going to carry over. Overall, I was fairly pleased with how the vlogs came out, particularly since most of them were done live or on the fly. Incorporated a few new elements technically that I thought worked reasonably well, kind of figured out how to incorporate some of the still shots into the video without it just becoming sort of a montage. So I thought that worked out pretty well. And overall I'd say, given the time and circumstances, it's probably the best of the 5 vlogs that I've done, which isn't necessarily saying a lot. As I say, it's not certainly at the level of technical proficiency that some people have, but overall I was pretty pleased with it. I think it overall also represented a pretty realistic assessment of my experience. As I say, sometimes at the end of the evening things broke down a little bit, or maybe first thing in the morning. But overall, you got a pretty good idea of what I was doing, where I was going throughout the whole trip. So if that's what you were looking for in the vlog, I think you more or less found it. And I have to say, and I mentioned it at the time, I was tickled to actually be recognized on a couple of occasions on the trip by a couple downtown as I was walking by the Four Queens, and then by a gentleman whose name now escapes me at the Cosmopolitan, who just came up to me and like, "Hey, you're Vegas Tips and Tricks." I'm like, "Yeah." So that was pretty cool. I hadn't had that experience before, and that was a neat experience all the way around. And there was so much feedback on the Twitter, on the Facebook group, on the YouTube, that I'm sure I missed a lot of your stuff. I tried to go back and hit most of the YouTube comments at least, but appreciate everybody that participated in that. Like I said, overall, a good trip. It was a tiring trip because of the I was out of town prior to the visit and then got back rather late to very cold weather in the Kansas City area. So that's one of the reasons I think it kind of wore me down. Looking like the next trip's probably going to be end of April, start of May. There's a number of people going at that time. There's a group pull going on with a number of other Vegas channels that I was fortunate enough to be invited to be a part of. And assuming nothing changes, I will plan to be there during that time. As far as upcoming events with the channel, we'll go back and we'll have a regular Saturday show this week. Not sure exactly what we're going to talk about, but I've got several days to figure that out. I did not do as much filming in Vegas as I had hoped. Took me a while to sort of get used to fooling around with the GoPro, but I think in future trips I've got a little bit better grip on how to operate the camera and where it might be most useful. But we do have the better part of a month and a half's worth of videos that we'll be doing on Wednesday going forward. So at least for the foreseeable future, we'll have both a Wednesday and a Saturday video again until I run out of useful material. I know there was some indication. I was even planning to do it at one point, possibly going live either on the Facebook group or on YouTube at some point. So if there's some interest in doing another a live stream, let me know. We can definitely talk about doing that again. If anybody wants to ask any questions about the trip or anything else about the channel, the group, you know, let me know. Be happy to do it again. I just, you know, there are so many live streams out there, so many folks you can go on and chat with. You know, PJ's on just about every night of the week. If you want to get some good online Vegas chat, Hog and Tucson have been doing some live streams, so there's always live streams out there. But again, if there's an interest in doing one again, let me know. We'll try to put it together. It might be fun to do it on the weekend sometime, maybe mid-afternoon, see if we can't bring along some of our friends across the pond. So that's a possibility as well. Again, I alluded to it, but if anybody has any questions about the trip, any thoughts or, well, basically any questions or comments, you can leave them in the notes below. I try to read them all, usually do. So, and perhaps we'll get another poster from the guy who thinks I resemble a squirrel or something. It is Squirrel Appreciation Day, so I appreciate you, squirrel. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, thanks for following along. Thanks for watching the vlog. We are now counting down the days until Vegas 45. Until Saturday, I hope that you have a great and lucky week. And as always, we will see you soon.